Panthers Nation, it's finally here. The preseason is over and the real fight begins. Week 1 is on the horizon, and the Carolina Panthers are walking straight into a storm against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But here's the truth, this team is already facing tough decisions, shocking trade rumors, and one of the most competitive roster battles we've seen in years. Buckle up, because what's happening inside this Panthers locker room could shape the entire season. The Carolina Panthers just wrapped up their preseason, and now all eyes are on Week 1 against the Jaguars. But before we even get there, this roster has already given us drama, surprises, and tough calls. The Steelers closed out preseason by beating the Panthers in Charlotte, and honestly, the atmosphere didn't even feel like a home game. Steelers fans showed up in big numbers at Bank of America Stadium, and that was hard to watch. But even in that loss, a few young Panthers made their mark. Rookie safety Lam Ransom came away with an interception, proving why he could be a big piece of the defense moving forward. Jimmy Horn made plays on special teams, the kind of effort that usually earns you a roster spot. And Trevor Etienne, the rookie running back from Georgia, showed flashes of real explosiveness. He's not just fast, he runs with power and aggression, and he could quickly become a weapon in that backfield. But let's be honest, the biggest question right now is the wide receiver room. Reports say the Panthers will likely keep 7 receivers on the 53-man roster, and that means some names we know could be left out. David Moore, a veteran who's close with head coach Dave Cannells from their Seattle days, might be the odd man out. That's huge because he's been seen as a reliable presence in that locker room. If Moore doesn't make the team, then guys like Hunter Renfrow, Jimmy Horn, and Jalen Coker suddenly have a much bigger chance to shine. Coker, in particular, has been one of the most impressive receivers in preseason. Some say he's outplayed everyone else in the group. And then comes the bombshell, trade rumors. Adam Thielen, Bryce Young's most trusted target, has been linked to a possible return to Minnesota. Imagine that the Vikings could bring back one of their most respected veterans. If that happens, the Panthers might only get a late-round pick in return, but what they'd really gain is opportunity. More snaps for the young guys like Xavier Legette, who some scouts are already comparing to A.J. Brown. More chances for rookie T-Mac to step up right away as a number 1 option. And yes, more reps for Jalen Coker, who could shock everyone and emerge as Thielen's replacement. This wide receiver battle is where the real fire is right now. It's competitive, it's unpredictable, and it might decide how successful this offense is in 2025. Panthers fans, I need to hear from you. If you had to pick right now, who's the odd man out in this wide receiver group? And if Adam Thielen really gets traded back to Minnesota, would you support it or is that a huge mistake? Drop your thoughts below because this Steelers battle is about to change everything. Panthers fans, get ready because the roster battle isn't just at wide receiver. The tight ends, the quarterbacks, and even the defensive backfield are on fire right now with competition. And on top of that, the Panthers' name is being thrown around in one of the wildest rumors of the offseason. Could Micah Parsons, yes, Micah Parsons, actually land in Carolina? This is where things get crazy. The Panthers' roster puzzle is not just about the receivers. The tight end room is packed, and it's getting harder to see who survives cutdown day. James Mitchell has shown flashes during training camp, but he could be headed to the practice squad instead of the 53. With Tommy Tremble, Mitchell Evans, and JT Sanders already in the mix, the competition is fierce. The quarterback room is just as tense. One misstep, one bad performance, and it could cost you a spot. We saw that against the Steelers when Bartholomew struggled badly. He might not make it. Right now, the battle for QB3 is tight, and every rep matters. But let's talk about the defense, because something special might be brewing. J.C. Horn is the clear star, but look at who's stepping up. Mike Jack, Channing Smith-Wade, and out of nowhere, Corey Thornton. Nobody expected this guy to push his way into the roster conversation, but here he is making plays. And if Thornton actually sticks, credit goes straight to GM Dan Morgan and his scouting team. Imagine this, you find not only a Jalen Coker at wide receiver, but also a Corey Thornton in the secondary, both young, both cheap, and both making real contributions. That's how you build a future. Cutdown day is Tuesday. That's when everything becomes real. Some Panthers will lose their spots, but also keep your eyes on other teams. Surprise cuts always happen, and Carolina could swoop in and grab a veteran safety or linebacker without giving up a single draft pick. And then, there's the bombshell rumor. Micah Parsons. The Dallas Cowboys superstar linebacker is in a toxic fight with Jerry Jones in the front office. Reports say the Cowboys offered him record-breaking money, and his camp basically told them to shove it. That's ugly, and that's why some insiders are floating the idea of Parsons being traded. Now, Trey Hendrickson is another name on the market, but at 30 going on 31 with a heavy contract, that doesn't make sense for a team that's still building like Carolina. But Parsons? He's young, he's entering his prime, and he would completely transform this defense. Imagine Parsons flying around in Panthers black and blue, next to Brian Burns and Frankie Louvu. That's the kind of move that takes a rebuilding team and turns them into a playoff threat overnight. Would it cost Carolina a first-round pick? Maybe even a young player like Jimmy Horn Jr. probably. But ask yourself this, if you woke up tomorrow and Micah Parsons was a Carolina Panther, would you really be upset? All right, Panthers Nation, I want your honest take. Who makes this 53-man roster, and who gets cut? And if Micah Parsons actually hit the trade block, would you give up a first-round pick to bring him to Carolina? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this roster battle is about to explode. Panthers Nation, we've waited long enough. It's finally time to talk about Bryce Young, the Jaguars, and the insane pressure this fan base is carrying into Week 1. Because let's be real, if Bryce's first pass against Jacksonville isn't clean, this stadium might just implode. That's how much is riding on this game. The good news first, Damon Lewis is back. He's not loud, not flashy, but he's the silent enforcer on that offensive line. People love to talk about Robert Hunt being the voice, the leader, the face of the trenches, but make no mistake, Damon Lewis is the quiet assassin. Having him ready for Jacksonville is a massive boost for Bryce Young and this offense. And look, today's game against Pittsburgh, it gave me some hope. Dave Cannells was dialing up the plays, and you could actually see the difference. James Mitchell schemed wide open, the run game sticking longer, and even with Jack Palmer under center, the Panthers moved the ball better than they did in that brutal second preseason outing. But here's where the nerves kick in. Panthers fans aren't just nervous because of preseason, we're nervous because of everything we've been through. Since 2015, it's been a straight grind. The downfall of Cam Newton, Luke Kuechley's shocking retirement, the Matt Rule disaster, the endless rebuild talk. It's year 7 since Rule's hire, and only now does it feel like we're truly on the upswing. The roster moves? Intentional. The wide receivers, the offensive line, the defensive signings, all built to help Bryce succeed. And yet, all eyes are on him. Bryce Young has to look sharper. He has to look better than he did this preseason. I know it's a tiny sample size, but in this league, first impressions matter. And if Bryce's first throw against Jacksonville is too short, too long, knocked down, or worst case, intercepted, Panther Nation will lose its mind. You could feel the air leave the stadium. That's how fragile the trust is right now. But here's the flip side. If we get the Bryce from Atlanta, the Bryce who found rhythm, who found flow, who looked like he belonged, then everything changes. The fans believe, the networks talk, the hype train takes off. Because we want it. Everyone wants this team to rise, and the pieces are there. The defensive line is the wild card. Jonathan Alexander, now covering the Texans, went on WFNZ and flat out said the Panthers' defensive line is bad. That hurts because that was the priority this offseason to fix the trenches. They spent money. They added names like Turk Wharton, Bobby Brown, Prince Umar Milan, Nick Scordon, Patrick Jones III, and of course they're banking on a healthy Derek Brown to anchor it all. That unit is supposed to stop the run and set the tone. So I don't agree with Alexander. I think the line will be better. But it's like everything else with this team right now, it has to actually show up on the field. No more potential. No more flashes. Week 1 is here, and it's time to see who the Carolina Panthers really are. So here's my question for you, Panthers fans. How much pressure do you think Bryce Young is undergoing into this Jaguars game? Is it make or break already? Or do we need to stay patient? And what about that defensive line? Do you believe Jonathan Alexander that it's bad? Or do you think the upgrades will prove him wrong? Sound off in the comments because week one is about to test all of us. Panthers Nation, let's not sugarcoat it. This defensive line is under a microscope. The pressure is sky high, not just on Bryce Young, but on the trenches, the coaches, and frankly, the entire identity of this team heading into week one. And if it doesn't click, man, we're in for a long year. Here's the brutal truth. This defensive line hasn't looked good at all. Even against Pittsburgh's backups in the preseason, it was way too easy to run on Carolina. Go check the box score. The Steelers piled up over 100 rushing yards without breaking a sweat. Panthers did their thing on the ground too. Raheem Blackshear, Bryce Burgess, Trevor Etienne. But that doesn't excuse how soft the defense looked at the line of attack. And the pass rush? Barely there. Skylar Thompson threw for 150-plus yards with little resistance. Yes, there were flashes. Cam Jackson and Princey got some pressure, but flashes don't win games. That's why when people start talking about trading for a Trey Hendrickson or even swinging big for Micah Parsons, I get it. Parsons would completely transform this defense overnight. That's not fantasy talk. That's reality. And here's the kicker. If you peek at some of those way too early 2026 mock drafts, you'll see Carolina projected in the top 10 and looking at an edge. That tells you what the national perspective is on this unit. And honestly, it's hard to argue until they prove otherwise. The hierarchy of pressure going into week one is clear. Bryce Young, all eyes on him. He's got to take the leap. The defensive line, they invested money. Brought in Wharton, leaned on Super Bowl pedigree. And they have to stop Travis Etienne and get in Trevor Lawrence's face. Dave Cannell's no more excuses. You're the quarterback guru. You brought weapons for Bryce. Now scheme it and make it work. And this one stings. The fans at that Pittsburgh preseason game deserved better. Starters should have played at least a series. Steelers trotted out names like Jalen Ramsey, but Panthers fans paid real money. Some can't afford regular season tickets, especially with Bills games starting at $200 in the 500s, and they didn't even get to see the first team offense run live bullets. That matters. So here we are. Week one looms. The last impression this offense left was two garbage series for negative yards. That's not confidence. That's nerves. And for me, it feels just like the Cam Newton days. Every single time Cam dropped back, I prayed the ball wouldn't get picked. Not because I didn't believe in him, but because I knew the noise if it went wrong would be deafening. Bryce is in the same boat. We need this kid to succeed. If he doesn't, it's going to hurt bad. And look, I'll admit it, maybe 1% of me has already glanced at that 2026 QB draft class because it's deep, deeper than last year. But 99% of me, I need Bryce Young to be the guy. I need him to silence the noise, light up Jacksonville, and give Panther Nation hope again. Panthers fans, where's your confidence level right now? Are you worried more about Bryce Young, the defensive line, or Dave Cannell's play calling? And be honest, have you peeked at that 2026 QB draft class yet? Even just a little? Drop your takes below, because this week one matchup is about to set the tone for the entire season.